Friday night.
How did
Joyce, roll call.
Sutton,
Here.
Cruz,
Yo.
Stanford,
Here.
Cortez,
Here.
Agbaje, here, Burnick,
Here.
Golub, Reimer,
Here.
Owens, here, Delaney,
Here.
Schuster, Monfred,
Here.
Chilcote,
Here.
Albarracin,
Here.
Emilska, Shu, Rosenberg, Berger,
Here.
Zapratov,
Here.
Stubbs,
Here.
Ju, Smith,
Here.
Stern,
Here.
Hu, Stein, McConnell,
Here.
Mahadevan,
Here.
Wang, Shaw,
Here.
Talisnik,
Here.
Gupta, Menon,
Present.
Moreno, Yen.
Here. I had a really good day. Okay, with that, we will start with open forum. I haven't called for that yet. So put hands down. Open forum will be 10 minutes. I'll give preference to members of the general public. I'm sorry. Guests, if you could introduce yourself. We'll start up there with Alec and then work our way over.
Sure. Alec Miller, Chair of the NEC. Matt Hurley, Member of the NEC.
Alex Skepta, CP reporter.
Nikita Patel, Vice President of AIS, the Assembly of International Students.
Hi everyone, Sahaya Pashmi, President of the IS.
Now we will move into open forum. Again, 10 minutes. Members of the general public can have preference. After that, I'll go to UA members. So I'll start soliciting topics. UA efficiency. Ernest.
NEC policy, petty policy.
Joyce.
I'm sorry.
Power chords and commons.
Katie.
Emergency facility services.
Okay. Any other topics? Justin.
Nutritional facts at dining halls.
Andy, did you have another one?
Oh yeah, just a quick update on it. I think that's just one thing.
Okay. We have 5 topics, 10 minutes. I'll give each topic 2 minutes. We'll start with, actually, since one topic concerns the member of the general public, we'll actually start with the NEC poster policy.
So over the past,
Remember, 2 minutes.
okay, over the past time, I wrote a recent column in DP, about some of the policies that they have regarding postal policy that disenfranchise certain members of the community who have, ran for office, and we've lost a few people that could have been on the board over things like having, 6 extra posters and things like that. And although I do think these are very serious cases, I do think that perhaps these things can be explored. Don't know how they will be, but it's something that should go for discussion. I know that there's a renewal starting on the 1st of January of 2014 on the NEC policies, and I'm just saying that we can have a discussion about maybe revising some of the guidelines and working with that, because we're losing certain people over stuff that I don't necessarily know is as serious as it can be. So perhaps we can explore that.
Okay. Are there any other comments on this?
I have a comment.
Alec?
Okay, I think that I'm just going to start by talking about lessons learned from last year. Number 1 lesson learned from last year in Penn student government is that things involving Penn student government should first be discussed with other members of Penn student government before they're brought to the DP. The second thing I'd like to discuss as a lesson learned from last year in terms of the budgeting process is that if you would like to see a change within Penn student government, the best way to do that is to meet privately with the relevant members of Penn student government beforehand, to respectfully invite them to meetings where these things are being discussed. I think it's absurd that I'm having to talk about poster policy without my vice chair of election. Why is that happening? Because I found out about this 20 minutes ago via Facebook. We were not called upon, we were not warned, and I just think this is a ridiculously inappropriate forum for this discussion.
I can answer one of your questions.
Hold on, Eric, you have the next comment.
I agree a lot with what Ernest has said. I feel like this is not just limited to post-grad policies, but perhaps like traditionally policies as well. Let's not forget that last semester we had a member of the body, Dan Klein, who was disqualified in what was many consider a very controversial, untransparent process. And so I feel like there definitely should be a larger discussion about the NEC's policies and how we can better fit them to be more just. So I agree with Ernest.
I would just like to take a moment to say there's like 6 people on the list, so if there is a motion.
Motion to cap the speakers list.
Second. A motion to cap the speakers list?
Wait.
Against the motion?
Second.
Ryan, everyone.
Motion to extend open forum for an extra 15 minutes.
Okay, so Wyatt, I can call for the vote then. Okay, yeah, guys, can everyone, so Gabe did make the first motion, and while I was going to call for a motion to extend debate, the first motion was to cap the speakers list. Is there a second for a motion to cap the speakers list? We have a second, that means a 2/3 majority to pass. All in favor of capping the speakers list? All against capping the speakers list? All abstentions? That failed. Is there a motion to extend debate?
Motion to extend debate for an extra 15 minutes.
There's a motion to extend debate by 15 minutes. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please raise your hands. Placards. All opposed to extending debate by 15 minutes? All abstentions? That passes. Today will be extended by 15 minutes. We can extend to this. Ernest, you have the next comment.
Yes, so to answer one of your questions, so we
Sir, can you speak up?
Yes. To answer one of your questions, we did talk a few minutes ago, and I did say to you, I'm sorry, and I'm unfortunate at this, because I think it's a discussion that we can all talk about, and it was just an open discussion. I did also ask you that if you felt uncomfortable, we can postpone this conversation next week. You felt like you wanted to do it now, so by golly, we're doing it now. And I also, again, this is an open topic, it's an open discussion, we're not changing any policies, we're not doing anything, we're just having a conversation. So I don't necessarily want to put anyone, I just was like, it's an open forum topic. It's something that just happened. I don't think I have to call everyone to have that discussion. It's an open forum discussion. Now, if there was anything over rules and policies or anything like that, then you're free to come, but you're always here anyway. So I didn't think it was such a big deal, but I apologize.
Alec, you have the next comment.
Sure, so the reason why I opted to have the discussion today is because when I found out about the discussion today, as you'll notice, I thought this was a relevant discussion to my body, and I invited them to come today to be present for this discussion. It's very relevant to the things that they are passionate about, and that they've put a lot of work into. And when you call things petty, what you're not only calling petty are the elections, but you're also calling petty the victories that occurred for the people in this room. And it calls into question the entire Penn student government brand, something that we have also worked very hard to protect. So if you want to have a discussion about poster policy, I'd love to have it. I don't think that springing it upon us without any sort of preparation, making it feel like it's not a collaborative thing, but rather some sort of, hidden attack that we find out on Facebook isn't really the way I'd like to do it. Further, what I would have explained to you, had you brought this up, was that this rule, the purpose of it is not actually fairness. The purpose of it is that facilities only allows us to have a certain number of posters on a bridge. So by allowing certain students to have 8 posters on the bridge as opposed to 2, what happens is that facilities actually has threatened to take away poster privileges for all students during elections. Now, the question is, do you guys want to have posters? If that question remains yes, then we're going to have to keep rules in place to allow you guys to have posters. If you guys are all willing to say you don't want posters, on campus during election time, that's something I'm going to disagree with. But again, we're here to serve you and collaborate with you. So I'm trying to protect your needs as candidates. And I think that someone who didn't come to the FPC hearing, didn't come to the candidates meeting to hear the changes we've made for this year, isn't really someone who should be bringing this to the general public at this time. Without sitting down with Frank and me in advance to talk about actual relevant, pieces of reform, as opposed to just, throwing ridiculous philosophies out into the air.
Okay, Dave, next comment.
Well, I would just like to bring up two things first of all, and to be fair, what Ernest did write was an opinion article, and that was in the DP, and that is not necessarily representative of the opinion of the UA, but I think that Ernest has a God-given right to say whatever he wants to say, whether it's petty or not. And I think that that should not be something that should be used necessarily as a personal attack, but rather just as a statement that perhaps we should maybe in the future choose things that might be a little more tactful. Now, the one thing I can say, and I do agree with Alec on this, is that certain, I guess, inconsistencies in communication do seem to illegitimize the UA body in the eyes of some other organizations. We saw this last week with SKU. And my concern here is that every time it seems so far that we brought up something, we're bringing up a change that we think in the structural composition of another organization. SKU, it was a program, here it's a role. It's with something that is that important, that integral to the composition of another organization, we need to make sure that we inform them well in advance. I would say a few days. And if we don't do that, that just makes us look heady ourselves. And so my argument here is just, next time I would say that, Ernest, your opinion is valuable, everybody's personal opinion is valuable, but we should probably choose a time and a place where it is tactful and also consider the opinions of the other individuals, perhaps the individuals our opinions are railing against.
Anthony?
I actually highly agree with Nathan a lot. I think the NEC does great work. I actually, back in freshman year, they declared me the winner for a class proposition that I actually did not win. They stole my vote.
We're so sorry.
Don't worry. Okay, I'm here. And then I forgave them. We're all human. I realize that we all make mistakes. So I understand, and what I really don't want, and Aiden brought up a really good point, I was going to say this, and he probably say it better than I will, that I really don't want any tension between the UA and the NEC. They're a great organization, and they're really trying to just enforce, just fairness in the electoral process. But I do hear Ernest's concerns. There is some tension, I guess, for candidates. This seems just to be a reoccurring pattern of controversy. So I think it should be addressed, and I think that we as a body should talk about this. But yeah,
Gabe?
I'll just say that Aiden said a lot of what I would have said, and said it very well, I thought. While Ernest has the right of speech, Ernest, with all due respect, I do respect him. While Ernest does have the right of speech, he also does have the responsibility to exhaust appeal and to exhaust any method he can to reach the NEC or to any student government body before he goes out and talks to the people. We had a problem last year with the same thing, with Mo, with Ernest. Talking about issues that were in-house about a particular event that happened earlier in the year with UA hazing, which was not a particularly good moment for this organization. Last week, we got into a bit of a hissy fit between SKU and myself and a few other people about what we should do with Open Ed, which is a discussion which we will continue to have. But we have to continue to think about, and this is as a body and as a general student government, so NEC, SKU, and all others included, what exactly we're going to do in the future when it comes to actually moving as a united student government. We can't we can't afford to continue this line of continuously questioning publicly each other. Yes, it's important to make sure that we're being efficient. It's important to discuss things, but it's also important to make sure that we keep things in-house as best we can. And only after we exhaust every single appeal, only after we exhaust discussion and we still disagree, then we move on, and then we can talk publicly. Because then, that is the final exhaustion of appeal, that is a discussion to the general student body. But please, let's keep things in-house.
Alec?
And finally, what I'd like to say in the spirit of collaboration is that if you have an issue with poster policies and we can work together, then I think something we can do very well together is use your skills of advocacy to go to facilities, determine the exact problem, and perhaps make the rules more lenient so that we don't have to enforce strict rules either. We don't enjoy disqualifying people. It's not fun for us. Okay, so, it hurts. Frankly, when I have to read out the results and I hear that that a freshman who's so excited about joining student government, that his first interaction with student government is going to be us disqualifying him, I'm not happy about that. It's just part of our role. But if we can work together to make our rules simpler so that the rules can be easier to follow, I think that's something we can all agree upon. And that's what we should be focusing on in private meetings and approaching the administration together, as opposed to calling my body before yours.
Ernest?
Okay, so when the campaign speeches are over and we can actually have conversations about real issues that are not endorsed, that's not how it works. Most of the things that we've got accomplished is when people have spoken out against things that have came up and has happened that was once endorsed that people have to talk about out loud. For example, if the NEC felt like the postal policy is something they don't like to do and disqualify, why haven't over the years, because there's been years after years people have gotten disqualified over this nonsense, and yet nothing has changed. And then someone who finally speaks up and says something out loud, who actually, when I wrote the DP article, I did call you, I did interview you, we did a process on the phone, we did a process via email, we talked about it at 2 o'clock at night. I gave you a chance to talk. And whether it's in the DP or whether it's not, that's student government. As a student, I am entitled to say whatever I want to say and open it up for discussion. And you guys, as a student body, as a democracy, will listen if that's how we work and that's how we operate. And yes, sometimes things do get tension, but things do get better. And as far as that faulty analogy and that assumption that you made, Gabe, about hazing issues last year, this does not have anything to do, does not correlate anything with the NEC and what they do, because what the NEC's policies are, they do have those are acceptable, they don't break code. We're arguing over principle of that, but that has nothing to do with something that was against campus policy. That's not the same. And when you don't know everything and you don't know all the details behind all that, it's wrong for you to sit and make that assumption, to make that comparison. And I find that offensive. But at the end of the day, I do feel like if there was such a problem and anyone had an issue with the postal policy, why didn't we have this conversation before? Because we all sit up every year and talk about how we hate the NEC sometimes and how we get annoyed with the postal policy. They can't stand us sometimes, we can't stand them, and we keep this internal and we don't talk about it. Someone drops a column, guess what? Change happens. Column came out last year, guess what? We don't haze each other anymore. So shit seems to get done when we actually speak up loud. And if that's what it's going to take to get us to change, then that's what we're going to do. Because that's how democracy works, and that's how student government works. Because when we do all this internal stuff, the body never knows. The outside people that are effective trying to run for student government don't. Bill Ding doesn't want to run for student government anymore because he feels like he can't because of postal policy. So I'm speaking on his behalf. That's what I'm doing. I represent the students on the outside and coming in. And if you don't agree with that, that's fine. But that's what I'm doing.
John, do you have a
Do
question?
the rules allow for a motion to end debate or discussion during open forum?
Yes, they do.
Further inquiry, do I have the floor and the ability to make that motion, or does that motion have to be made by someone currently on the speaker's list?
No, anyone can make that motion.
I move that discussion proceed to the next topic.
Motion to commit to
So we have a motion to essentially end debate on this topic. All in favor, please raise your placards.
Can I make a comment to that?
No. All opposed? Okay, that does not have a 2/3 majority to pass. I'm gonna ask everyone to keep these comments relevant, and I will start cutting you off if I feel these comments are not relevant and short to the point. Patricia, you're the next comment.
That's what I was gonna say, that this discussion is completely not what Ernest brought up. Like, whether Ernest has the right to say this in the DP or whether he doesn't, whatever my opinions on that are totally not relevant. I think that the NEC makes their rules really clear. As a candidate, I may not agree with all the rules that you have out there, but they are completely clear. The PowerPoint is comprehensive. You guys are always available for questions. And yeah, sure, I think it's kind of, maybe, I don't like the fact that we can only put up one poster on the side of the bridge, but I'm assuming that there are other things that I don't understand. That's why the NEC has that rule. So the NEC makes their rules so clear, and that candidates should be able to follow them. And honestly, if you can't follow a rule about putting up one poster, then maybe you don't have what it takes to be in student government. That's my opinion.
Matt.
I just wanted to address something that bothered me with this conversation compared to the conversation last week at SKU. This conversation was open forum. There was nothing coming out of it except how we were going to pursue this issue further. You would commit it to a committee, and then they would approach you out and say, hey, this is how the way feels. How can we go forward? That's why, it'd be nice to bring you in, but it's definitely not necessary because we are not deciding anything. We're deciding how we're going to move forward to approach you.
Abe.
I was gonna say what Matt said, so hats off to Matt. The one other thing that I wanna say is that this could be viewed as part of a broader conversation between us and NEC that's going to go on before January 2014, when all of the bylaws governing elections are going to be reviewed because they're set to expire. So if we look at this as something that can be productive then, not something that we specifically need to attack the NEC on now, I think maybe if you're looking forward, we could have a collaborative discussion with Spencer Stubbs, the UA representative on the NEC, and maybe make some progress on this.
So just to clarify briefly, Abe, it's actually only the bylaws relating to qualifications for the candidacy of president and vice president that are set to expire. In 2014, we don't actually involve ourselves in any of the other election rules other than that. Just to clarify. Danielle, you had a question.
I have a question. This is sort of more relevant to like the actual discussion of the poster policy. I was just wondering, in the case of Building, was he telephoned or informed before the end of elections that he had 2 posters on the bridge?
I can only speak to what came out during the public hearing, simply because I can't remember without my notes what is public and what I know from delegate information. What we know is that Building had too many posters on the bridge. He was informed that he had too many posters on the bridge. At around midnight that night, he was informed early in the morning, at around midnight that night, he emailed Frank letting him know that the posters were down. And then the next day we received more photos that suggested that even though there were fewer posters on the bridge, he was still in transgression of the rule.
Thank you.
Nikolai?
I just wanted to say that, yeah, I think people have been abusing the open forum privileges right now to like kind of attack each other, and I think I just want to reiterate like what Patricia and I were saying is that open forum is like open so people can bring like like their grievances or whatever ideas so that the body can actually absorb them and actually then take them to committee. And so I mean I would just say that I don't think Ernest was trying to like insult the NEC, and it's not supposed to be that way. But I think it is like a very good that, for instance, he's bringing this up because otherwise people wouldn't really speak about it. And especially the whole thing about like, talking behind closed doors, I think that is actually very anti-transparent, and I think this is like why the open forum is here, so that people can actually hear about it and know what's going to be discussed, because otherwise in the background, people wouldn't know who else is involved in that conversation, which is like, I'm actually very interested to know like, what the NEC is planning to do about it, because I think what I got out of like Ernest's like main message in his column was not that the NEC like did something wrong, but that maybe the rules are more disproportionate to the act, because for instance like 3-4 posters that were posted up, like are they really enough to actually have influenced the actual election to make the Building win? Or I mean, now that you did talk about the whole facilities issue, I think that is very good, and it's been more informative for the body. But in general, I think that members should, for future reference, not simply attack the speaker during an open forum session before like more information has been divulged.
Alec?
Okay, so I'm just going to respond really quickly to what was just said. I actually brought up elections in open forum last week. And what I had said was, if anyone has any questions pertaining to elections or to what happened at that PC hearing, I'd be happy to answer them. I also welcomed any comments. No one entered the speakers list, which is fine. That's good. I'm happy if people are happy, but let's not say that I'm suggesting we do anything behind closed doors. I'm perfectly happy to do them out in the open. I just don't think that the DP is necessarily the right forum. Now, in terms of this being a consistent issue with the poster policy, I read the candidate surveys every year. You guys don't read the candidate surveys every year. I can tell you that the results of the candidate surveys suggest that people are fairly annoyed by the candidate experience, but no one has offered any solutions to make the candidate experience better. So I think something both Frank and I ran on when we were running internals is that we wanted to open up this discussion to you. We wanted to bring in focus groups, not only surveys, because we think that's the best way to solicit your opinion. Now we obviously haven't had a chance to do that because we've been pretty busy at the beginning of this year with elections. We just finished our nominations. Thank you, Kanisha. So we've been really running this year. At this point, we've concluded with a lot of the heavy lifting. We're probably going to start looking again at elections, trying to perfect them before next spring. If anyone would like to be part of these, be part of these focus groups, that would be really helpful to us. If you could, I don't know, like come say hello to us. I have to actually run now. I'm already late for another meeting, but shoot us an email. chair@pennec.org, that's me. So we really do invite collaboration, but I think that there's a time and a place, and it's not behind closed doors. It's just an open form of discussion that doesn't occur within a queue, because that's not how real brainstorming gets done. And it does occur within the walls of OSA or out to coffee at Starbucks, not in a room where we're being taped and you know, where there's time limits, and you know, it's just not how real work gets done. This is how presentations of work that has happened gets done.
Gabe? I have to second everything Alec just said. That is the exact sentiment that I want everyone to sort of come across with after this discussion. I'm not asking anyone, and Alec isn't asking anyone to do anything that's necessarily surreptitious. We're not a clandestine organization. What I'm simply saying is that we don't have to revert the same things that we did last year, going public about every single thing that's rather private within the UA. I mean, before we go to any public source, we have to exhaust any kind of appeal within the body, within student government. Why? Because if we don't, then the only thing that anyone else is going to know about student government, whether that's the NEC, SCU, the UA, is that one, we were hazers, and two, we have petty policies. That's what I hear from people when I talk to the freshmen. Oh, I read that DP article that said the NEC policies were petty and were cheap or whatever the hell. I mean, if that's the only thing that they come across with, if that's the only message that they hear, then unfortunately that's what they're being imprinted with, and that will be in their minds. Most people in my class came up to me last year and said, "Oh, what does the UA do other than hate?" That was the same concept. We don't want that to repeat this year. We made, Ernest, I know you didn't go to retreat, but we made a point of saying that we were going to talk to each other this year. We were going to do things collaboratively before we sought out public sources. I think that you need to be part of that discussion. I'm not saying this as an affront towards you. I'm simply saying that you have a lot of power as someone who is very public, as someone who has their own radio show, or whatever shows you have, and DPR. You have a lot of power, and you have a lot of respect from a lot of different people. But please, for the organization's sake, don't just go out and say things on a whim. Have discussions first.
Spencer, did you still have a comment? Or withdraw it? Aiden?
The first part of this might be a bit of a rehash. The second part, I hope to edify a little bit the situation here. The first part is just, there seems to be an aversion here to a policy of closed doors. Sending an email a day or two before saying we're going to discuss this at our session is not closed doors, that's notification. I think that, from what Alec communicates, he received this last minute. I think that no matter if it's a policy that should be discussed in open forum or is this going to be formalized, I think you should inform people well in advance so you don't throw them off their equilibrium. I think what we see there is that the NEC is quite frankly surprised that we brought this up, having not been informed. Now, to speak more clearly about the issue surrounding Bill Ding. Bill Ding and I are close friends. He and I actually ran on an unofficial ticket together. I'm very sad he's not with us for the UA. Specifically, the NEC policy that he had a hard time dealing with was clarification about what constituted the bridge. I wish Alec was here to hear this, but his concern was that the bridge is a little undefined. Is the bridge the actual part that spans the road, or does the bridge begin right at the very edge of the railing? Right. The thing that his posters were on the edge of the railing, and only 2 posters were actually on the part of the bridge that spanned either side of the road. And so I think that, as minute as that sounds, that was a crucial detail that lost him the election. And I think that the NEC would do it as a recommendation to try to clarify exactly where the bridge begins and ends. I know it sounds minute, but it was very important in this situation.
Okay, last comment, I'll recognize Mrs. Canisius.
Hi guys, I know Alex gone, so I'm going to be speaking on behalf of the NEC. In response to what you were saying, Aiden, I don't, though all comments concerning what should be clarified during the candidates meeting ought to be directed at Frank, which is elections@penn-nec.org. I would say that Frank is always available for a clarification question, so if there was a confusion as to where the bridge ended or began building, whatever, access towards Frank. for Frank to answer this question. And also, I would really like for someone to motion to end this debate. The chair of our organization is gone, so you guys can direct any questions to him via email. If you guys have any internal discussions on what you guys want to do about poster policy, feel free. But if there's anything that we need to respond to, I would suggest a motion to end debate and discuss with Alec.
Debate's ended.
Great. Oh, never mind, take that.
Matt Rosenberg with the next topic, UA efficiency.
Right, UA efficiency, so. Alright, so the main point I want to make here is if someone's already said something, there's no need to repeat it. We don't need to add emphasis. We don't need to add emphasis. If we wanted to see where people stood, we would take a straw poll. So just adding the point again doesn't add anything to the conversation, it really just wastes 3 minutes of our lives. So I'd really appreciate it if people didn't repeat points and we could save an hour each meeting or so.
Okay, so I see a lot of comments on these. I'm going to help in the spirit of Matt's topic. So we'll start with Danielle.
This is really, really quick. I just want to say that I completely agree with what Matt said.
Obviously not.
I do think it's important. Matt was very clear in what he said. He said we shouldn't take up an extra 3 minutes. I think it is important if enough people want to express they agree with someone. I do think that that's important so the whole body knows what direction we're going with legislation.
That's what straw polls are for.
Okay, so then we should do more straw polls, but I don't think it's a good idea to have everybody repeat their entire reasoning behind why they agree. You know what I mean? Saying the same exact argument. You know what I mean? Saying, I agree with this, and we should move on, let's vote on this, or let's straw poll. You know what I mean?
To clarify, I'll clarify at the end of this whole thing. Patricia, you had the next comment?
And another thing, this is kind of different from what was brought up, but I think that everybody should participate more equitably. I don't know, as a freshman, I feel like there are certain people who dominate discussion. And I think that if you got elected, then you have every right to be here as the person who's sitting to your left or to your right. So I think that, I don't know what we can do to reach that kind of equitability. I don't know how we can do that, what policies we can enact, but I think that it's really important that every single member here be able to speak out and express their opinion.
Varun?
I just wanted to know why we didn't put him up first to go before everything.
Yeah, right?
Why didn't we put him first?
Yes. Question.
No, I do agree with what he said about that because if we want to be a constructive body, we've really got to move forward and get to the initiatives on our agenda. So I agree.
Lisa?
I'm just gonna say, can we punish people who are just being redundant, because I feel like that is in order. Right?
Arjun?
Alright, so 3 things. One, I think that, Will, you should definitely, a recommendation, you say you always will cut people off, but I think you actually should. Number 2 is that, I think that's, we have snapping for a reason. But we have snapping for a reason, you shouldn't have to raise your hand. When you snap extra loud, as some people do, it means you extra agree.
Shanira?
Ours just said what I have to say.
And Anthony. Anthony?
I agree with Danielle. I think sometimes I actually just am sorry, Matt, I disagree with you, but I just think that it's good to really emphasize that you need to say something and always add your own 2 cents. I think people already view us as inefficient. I don't think we're necessarily being inefficient by expressing our opinions and desires. I just think that if everyone needs to get the word out, I think it should be done so they don't have to hold it in forever.
But your words already been said.
Aiden, last comment?
Sure. Hopefully this won't make you too angry here. Basically, I actually do disagree probably even more strongly than he does, just in the notion that somebody might rehash something, but there can always be put a different spin on it. Everybody has a personal viewpoint, even if it is a slightly different direction. And I think that in the opportunity to encourage debate, even if people have to say something that might be an affirmation of what somebody else said, you should definitely encourage that. It's unrealistic to expect computerized efficiency from a human being, especially since some of us here can be quiet and other of us can be blow-ups. So the thing here is, I just think that it's an unrealistic expectation, unfortunately. I think it's important to keep in mind that we should try to be efficient as possible. But if something like this happens where I say something and then somebody else says something exactly like me, I don't think we should vilify.
Okay. So I'm gonna actually end this debate on a few comments of my own, just because it's a few things were brought up. One, I will absolutely start cutting people off more, but you all have to be willing to be cut off and not get all pissed off when I do so. Sometimes you try that and then people start rebelling and get angry and it doesn't go well. Two, straw polls, we will not start straw polls anymore. We will not. So Robert's rules says straw polls are meaningless and dilatory because they subvert the deliberative charge of a deliberative assembly. They are basically illegal. They're the strongest wording anything has ever used, like in Robert's rules, that don't do straw polls. I will allow them in rare circumstances, but they will not become a regular hallmark of any of our meetings while I'm speaker. So with that, we will move on to the next topic. And remember, if I want to cut you off, I will at this point. So power chords and commons, Joyce Kim.
Okay, so recently a student emailed me asking to look into power chords code commons, just because there are a limited amount of outlets available. So I was thinking what thoughts you guys had on that, a way to make it possible.
Okay.
Wait, can someone else take credits for Joyce in this topic? Just because she's the author of it. I can't, it's just a holiday, but
Joyce, can
someone.
you continue making it?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you to limit these comments to like 30 seconds. We'll start, let Nikolai get here, and then stay on the board. Khalil, I got you. Montford, I got you. Nolan, I have you. Stanworth, go ahead.
Okay, so I was actually thinking about this today when I was sitting in Starbucks. I think one of the ways we can do it is actually have them come down to the ceiling. I've seen that like in Starbucks before where they like hook onto the lights, electrical, and come down onto the tables.
Khalil?
Yeah, I said what I was gonna say.
Yeah. Okay, Montford?
I think you should email Doug Berger.
Nolan?
Yeah, I was gonna say, and anything you do, you need to keep in mind that was mentioned at steering, that it is a Starbucks franchise. So just make sure you're working within those guidelines.
Arjun?
Only concern is if you do it there, then maybe people at Hill will say, why don't we have clubs there? You might have to do it for everyone, so that could just start a problem for us.
Arjun?
Yeah, I also agree as well, but I also want to take into account that if you go on one half of the commons where that area is, you can't even use your cell phone. Like the bar is like down to one bar, so people, if we could just take consideration that too alone, that's something I've observed because I'd rather have a working cell phone than have an extra charger. Just saying.
Okay, seeing no more
Oh,
comments.
wait. Sorry. If you want to look into the cell phone thing, look into Extenet. Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna end the discussion on that. Katie, emergency facilities requests.
Oh yeah, so this past weekend on Friday, we had like a huge leak from one of the pipes in our room, in the bathroom. And then we called the emergency people and they're like, oh, they like sent people over and then the people were like, okay, we'll have like a plumber come over, but there's no plumber working on the weekends. So like, we're stuck with this like flooding bathroom until Monday because there's no plumber. I don't know like what we can do about that, but I think that's kind of a problem.
Nikolai?
You should go to the front desk and info desk and wrote in and contact
Yeah, well,
them.
we did that and like,
Anthony?
I definitely want to address this problem. Danielle knows it very well that I had to wait when I was sick, really sick. Shut up. So.
You're fine. You make
Walker, no,
you're all fine.
But, so, when I asked facilities to expedite them to come to my room and they didn't, so I think this is a problem that needs to be addressed.
Okay, Danielle?
I just want to make a note, I'm pretty sure this is what Tiffany's about to say, but like, we've actually discussed emergency issues in, DFF, and like, one of the things we're gonna do is probably look into like, potentially doing like a facilities overview of like all the rooms and stuff, like at the end of the semester, like at the end of the spring semester, so people come back, there are less problems, and I think that'll actually be more cost efficient. That's something we're gonna start looking into. There's no solution for it right now. I'm really sorry about the leaking. It really sucks. I had to be really slow about it. But I think a really good fix for this, I don't know if the body agrees, but would be to start some sort of program with all Tiffany's idea. I'm not taking credit for any of this. Where the facilities people, instead of like being called, you know, every time there's a problem in the fall, because there tends to be a lot of them over the summer, no one takes care of anything, have to be dealt with at the end of the semester, doing a full check, and that will hopefully reduce the issue.
Tiffany, last comment?
Basically, Danielle said everything I was gonna say. Just to add a note, if you are interested in working with me, I would wanna create some sort of discussion paper in the coming weeks. So if you're really, enthused about this idea, then please come see us.
Okay, last topic, nutritional facts in the dining hall, Justin.
So this was brought to my attention by a few independent people, and they each expressed concerns as to the fact that there isn't really much or any nutritional information about the food being served in the dining halls. And as much as like some of us don't care about what's in our food, there are people at the school who would like to know the health attributes of what they're putting in their bodies. And I think if we look at this, we need to look at it from a cost-benefit analysis and kind of see is the cost of putting out this information worth it? Is it feasible? We would obviously have to work with Bon Appetit, but I think it's something worth investigating and seeing if there's any viable options.
Okay, Danielle, you have the first comment?
Yeah, I just want to add on to what Justin was saying. I know a lot of you know that I have a lot of dietary restrictions. I'm not the only one on campus who has dietary restrictions. And yes, some dining halls do put like allergen information, but sometimes it's not enough. And there are like certain foods that like sometimes are gluten friendly, sometimes are not, and sometimes, there's just so many different things. And if the nutrition facts are on there, you know exactly what's in them. I read the nutrition facts on every single thing I'm about to put into my body. So I'm totally with Justin, beyond just what's healthy, what's not, for those people who have dietary restrictions.
I think you should bring that up to Tiffany, who sits on the dining hall advisory board. I don't think it merits further discussion here, considering that open forum is supposed to be 10 minutes and it's now been 45.
So we did extend it to 32, so we're not that far. But Ernest?
I do agree with what he said, but I'm gonna say like I said real quick. I do agree with the nutritional facts issue, but I do think on the website, I think Bon Appetit does put some of their foods up online. And so maybe if they would broadcast that more, or like we should try to steer people more to going on the website and looking what's on the menu. They have like a whole menu of what people eat previously and what they're gonna have today and stuff. You look at food and look at the nutritional facts. I could do that for my diet recently. So that's what I would do. But I do think that it would be, as far as cost, I think it would be just too meticulous to try to do that. Cause like they have so much stuff. And it would be hard to just try to put a nutritional fact on every single item and everything. So I do think that if we could try to find a way to relocate people with those dietary needs to go to the website and look at the food in advance, and they can make those decisions themselves.
Last comment, Nikolai.
It is on the website. I'm looking at it right now. It's like the Penn Dining website. But I do want to add that I think it's a great idea at my old school, instead of like having the actual information down, like by calories, carbs, all that stuff. What they had instead was kind of like a quick logo on the side, whether it was like gluten free, whether it was like low carb or like low calorie, whatever. So this image would be a kind of like a quick heuristic, like so people know. Because looking up all the information, it would take a lot of space. I think the alternative to that would be kind of to have like a QRC code on the side, so people that are interested, they can just get their smartphone, like look at it, and then it'll upload information. That I think would save a lot of space. That's something to look into.
Okay. Reports. President's report. Dan.
The UA members are meeting with President Gutman this week. Again, let me know if you have any ideas. Cal 10S Lab is soliciting project ideas, so please tell your constituents if they have any great new services they would like to see the UA fund. We would be happy to hear those ideas.
Vice President's report. A.
Read the report.
Okay. UA report. Okay, new members, committee assignments. You all should have received those just an hour or so ago. Please make sure to attend the committee to which you are assigned. If you attend any other committee, but please make sure to attend that one. Or there are provisions, you can talk to the committee director. If you absolutely can't make the meeting, they can also reschedule once you all are on the committee now. Please just be in communication with the committee director. Moral of the story. Committee attendance to everyone. Some of you are getting dangerously close to receiving a warning already in the semester. Please watch your committee attendance. Please let your committee director know with significant early notice that you will not be in attendance. And other than that, yep, that's all I got.
Motion from Dan and I to rearrange the agenda and put AIS.
I'm sorry, is that a motion to suspend the rules?
Motion to suspend the rules and put AIS contingency requests before other internal discussions, so they will leave.
I'm sorry, so you want to move this before progress reports?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'll move a second, Dan. All in favor, please raise your placards.
You guys are awesome.
All opposed?
We didn't give you the money.
Let them go. Okay, seeing that, we will move the AIS contingency request to right now. So the way this works, budget committee, you have 3 minutes to present your rationale for your funding decision, and we will go from there.
Okay, I guess I'll start. So basically, AIS is having a conference coming up, and we basically approved, after working with them the entire week, and actually the past 2 weeks, on, what's by our guidelines, what's not by our guidelines. They have been so great about adjusting all of their requests, and they've exhausted every single funding source possible. Absolutely every single funding source possible, and they are only asking for money that will basically help Penn students attend the event. So the money that they're asking for will allow any Penn student to come to the event. The amount that they're asking for the venue, yes, you could argue that the venue does house other students from other schools, but the amount that they're asking for from us is actually proportionally accurate to the number of Penn students expected to attend. And we are standing by our guidelines, not funding food and et cetera, and all the things that we don't normally fund. And the total comes down to $981, and we think it's a good idea. I mean, we basically are saying we're funding it in full because we work with them to eliminate the cost that we wouldn't otherwise fund.
Definitely, we appreciate that the due diligence looking for other funding sources, especially since SAC couldn't fund them yet, all those other issues are irrelevant. But they did look into other options, and we analyzed the transportation costs that they had for the speaker. Ian Shapiro was actually pretty good guy, looking him up. And the cost for honorary, $500, is actually pretty low for his level of speaker. So the travel costs, we looked at the Amtrak costs, and those are the cheapest tickets they could get. And pretty much they already have 140 Penn students already signed up, and so we thought that the cost benefit for this would outweigh just any reservations that we might have to funding it. And if we do fund the full amount, we will still have $9,240.76 left. So I guess.
Okay. AIS, you have 5 minutes if you would like it.
Sure. So for those of you who might not know about the conference, I guess I'll talk a little bit about the conference itself. And so basically, the conference is called the Ivy League International Student Networking Conference. And it's a 2-day event happening next Friday and Saturday, which all of you are welcome, of course. And basically, the idea behind the conference is to bring together students from across the Ivy League to Penn to engage in cross-cultural dialogue, to engage in dialogue about potential opportunities they might have in terms of careers, both in the US and outside of the US, to allow them to interact with alumni and other people who've sort of been in their positions. And one of the interesting things about the conference itself is that it's not a conference just restricted to international students, but it's a conference for all students who are from global backgrounds or who have an interest in global affairs or in either working in other countries, working in the US, and things like that. And so the way the conference itself is structured is that we have an open ceremony on Friday where the dean of the engineering school is a keynote speaker. We chose him because he was actually a PhD student from Argentina who came to Penn and then sort of went up through the ranks, which is quite unusual, and eventually became the dean for, I think, 2 terms. For Saturday, the keynote speech is by Ian Shapiro, who is a political science professor from Yale. He's very highly regarded in the political science community in the US and across the world. And in addition to that, we have a series of panels and workshops which are related to things like career opportunities in the US, talking about politics, both in the US and the rest of the world, talking about transitions to democracy, talking about social impact money, those kinds of things. And so these are all topics which are very relevant, not only for international students, but for all of us, especially since considering that the US is so highly globalized and so highly multicultural, these kinds of discussions are very important for not only our campus, but just generally speaking in terms of student bodies across the Ivy League. And so the conference itself is a unique venture, and so it started for the first time last year. It was a lot smaller last year. We had about 15 students from other schools and about 50 from Penn, and so this year it's grown exponentially, which is extremely exciting for us. And we're really happy that you guys are considering our request. And I'm happy to take any questions that you might have about the conference.
Okay, we will have 5 minutes for question and answer. After that, questions will still be allowed, but this right now, please limit this to. Please raise your hand only if you have a question right now. Dan, you have the first question.
Both to the budget committee and AIS, is this something that we anticipate funding annually through contingency? If I went back again.
To not discuss on further matters that are relevant to the conference. Next week we will be proposing some possible amendments to the budgeting guidelines. So.
That was a yes.
And to the authors, do you guys anticipate Penn
So-
hosting the conference every year?
So just to talk on that, the eventual hope is that the conference does become a rotating conference, but it's hard for me to say at this point whether the other schools will be in a position as of next year to have it rotating, so it's hard for me to comment on that right now.
Varun, next question.
How many students are you expecting?
So we have 60 confirmed, wait, hold on. Yeah, we have 60 confirmed from the other schools as of this morning, and 140 students, as was mentioned earlier. And this is spread not only on the opening ceremony, but also for the panels. In addition to that, for the Ian Shapiro keynote speech, it's also being advertised very heavily through Penn Department. So the event is being endorsed by Penn Poli-Sci and the PPE department, as well as Asian American Studies. And so they're advertising it to their students as well. And so we're hoping to fill GO6, which has a capacity of close to, I think, 250 for that specifically. But overall, I think a good estimate would be approximately 180 to 200 students throughout the conference.
Can I add to what you're saying?
Yeah.
Also, I just want to point out to like a lot of freshmen and people who haven't chosen or dealt with funding for large events before, this is a big number. Like we're reaching out to a lot of students, it's more than a lot of events at Penn ever reach out to, so it's pretty significant.
Okay, Gabe, you have the next question?
Just wondering, I was reading through it on the bus back here, the conference I was at, and I was wondering, did you guys ever think of, I thought you said trains on there, the cheapest trains that you could find. Were there any buses to New Haven?
So considering not only the distance, primarily the distance and the time it takes to get from New Haven to Penn, we also had to keep in consideration the speaker's requests as well. And so the cheapest mode of transportation, which were appropriate for the speaker, was a train ticket. And so it was based on that.
So wait,
Sorry, say that?
The conference is being held here?
Yes.
Okay, and you're just moving the speaker?
So the speaker is coming from Yale, and so he's coming from New Haven to Penn. Right.
And that's what you're paying for?
Right, we're paying for his train ticket.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Awesome.
Lisa.
How did you expect to fund the conference like without us? And did you try like getting corporate sponsors or anything like that?
Right. So the students who are coming from other schools have to pay a registration fee of $20, and that basically covers everything that we have to get for them. The conference is free for Penn students, and so our funding sources, we've been working on funding sources for the last 9 months or so, and so we've been reaching out to Penn departments as well as other student groups on campus who do fund events like this, and so we've reached out to pretty much every department which would have been relevant for the conference. We received funding from, as I said before, Poli-Sci, PPE, and ASAM, as well as funding from Dean DeTurk at the College of Arts and Sciences, from Penn Scholars. We received funding from T-Change, and we also received funding from Spectrum to help with the keynote speech. And so at this point, we've pretty much exhausted all channels of funding that exist. And so one of the things, I guess, one of the reasons why we're contingency funding is that the response that we received from Penn students has been overwhelmingly awesome. And so we really want to give all of them the opportunity to take part in the conference. And so that's why we have funding last year.
Eric?
So this really sounds like a great opportunity, and so I'm very happy that you guys are doing this. I was wondering though, so this year the funding didn't make it all the way through, as in the ones you were trying to raise, and so I was wondering in the future, do you expect, are you exploring new ways to try to make it more self-sufficient, or how's it look in the future? Because you said that this will be hosted, every year pretty much. So I was wondering about that.
So as far as hosting it every year goes, we hope that it does eventually become a rotating conference. As far as looking for other funding sources go, we do expect that, we do hope that based on the kind of response we've seen in terms of attendance this year, in terms of expected attendance this year, there will be more departments at Penn who will be willing to help us sponsor the conference. And we're also hoping that as the conference grows larger, the funding that we receive from other sources like SPEC and T-Change will grow in proportion. It's been difficult this year just because we've had to go off based on the numbers we had last year for the conference, and based off of those numbers, it's difficult for groups to fund us for such a large event since there hasn't been a precedent established before. And so based on the precedent that is being established right now, we're hoping that the funding sources will increase next year.
Okay, so with that, the question and answer time has expired, so I'll take the pro-con debate now. So if you wish to speak pro, thumbs up, con, thumbs down. I would still give questions priority. Please raise your inquiry placard and show me your inquiry placard and give one question.
Yeah, since I asked the budget committee, just wondering, like, if this is considered a large, like, this is almost 10%, so I was wondering if you consider this a large request at all, and if there are any, just, you know, if you're.
I mean, we discussed it, we said that having 9,000 left is pretty significant for the rest of the year, and we get contingency back.
Yeah, and also just like taking into account that as a stipulation on the budget committee, or like any funded by UA contingency, that the AAS will like have to have like the UA logo on all their advertisements. So that's also like a good shout out for us, especially like in the community plus like the other schools.
Especially since we're reaching out to so many people.
Sounds good. Can I motion to skip the pro-con debate?
You need one pro and one con before
You have
we
to.
do that.
Next question to Willie.
Oh, no, it was a point.
Oh yeah, pro.
Yeah,
go for it.
So I guess we're talking about, we've been talking, we'll mention more representation for international students, I guess more programs. And I think that this is a great idea and a great thing for the UA to back up and fund. So I'm very for that contingency request.
Willie? Or I'm sorry, Eric.
I feel the same way as Willie. I feel like this is more of the startup capital they need to get this going for in the future. So I feel like it definitely has a major impact on 10 students and like the entire Ivy League conference, and so I feel like this is a justified request.
Okay, I see a bunch of previous questions.
Was that con?
No, but bylaws say that if there are no cons, 2 pros can count. So all in favor of previous question, please raise your placards. All opposed, previous question, abstentions. Okay, so we move into voting. Please write on your cards, AIS contingency request, and then circle pro, con, or abstain.
Thanks for being so diligent about like providing our timeline.
Oh yeah.
I know it's like sort of ridiculous. I just learned all
Okay, all in favor, please raise your placards. All opposed, please raise your placards. All abstaining, please raise your placards. That bill passes by 31 to 0 to 0, AIS. So the budget committee's recommendation is adopted. Next, we'll move on to project updates. Dining Hall Advisory Board, Tiffany.
Oh, you guys can just read the update.
Common funding apps, common funding app, Nicolak.
Similar.
CAPS Advisory Board, Nicolak.
Sure, so this is a big kind of like two-part thing. So I reached out to CAPS, to Dr. Meeta Kumar. So like there's a CAPS Advisory Board, there isn't a UA designated seat on that. But they might like, kind of work to have in addition to that. Also, we talked about kind of establishing like a mental health like umbrella organization, so that like groups in campus could have like better opportunities for kind of united advocacy or funding for events like the Mental Health Awareness Week in spring. And then Dr. Kumar talked about how she could best use the UA to advertise an initiative that will be happening most likely in November. It's a little demonstration of the Penn program for trust management. Usually it's like an 8-week, 2-hour-a-week session at the hub. And it costs like $500. It's usually for adults, and it kind of gets into mindfulness, which is like an alternative to like normal counseling. And they just kind of want to get students to try it, so that they want to do like a free session. They'll do like an hour and a half just once. There'll be like free food, and pretty much like it's all already covered for, but she'd love to like have the UA's input into like how to best advertise for it, and she'd love to have like Penn sort of government leaders to attend.
Okay. That's the last project update, so we move on to discussion papers. Josh and Christian, it's the CPE discussion paper on the 19th Commons mural. You both have 3 minutes between you to introduce this, so go for it.
Yeah, I'll let Josh.
Oh,
yeah, I'll let you, and then I'll pitch in.
Alright, so, as you know, Twice Commons, recently we
Beautiful
talked about
picture, guys.
Yeah, it is, it's obviously we all know that it's an aesthetically pleasing building. And the outside, the patio has actually gotten a good bit better. There was the wall parallel to Locust that looked also disgusting, but as was clarified in steering by Mr. Berger, the bamboo is supposed to grow 20 feet tall and will cover that. So all we're left with is harmless windows and then this slab of dapper gray. Philly being, as the paper said, a mural city, and not having a ton of murals up anywhere, we felt that we wanted to be more aesthetically pleasing thing. We're inviting a better social atmosphere down in that little patio area, inviting people putting some color, they can look down there, know that there's something down there when they're walking by. As well as integrating Penn with the whole idea of Philly and its murals. And like the new admissions video had, the picture of, imagine like Locust Walk, just like looking at that, a more realistic kind of depiction of Penn everyday life. And I think that would go rather nicely there. So with that, yeah, that's my suggestion is that the other wall taken care of, that would be the best place for it. A nice mural with some more realistic look, and done by actual muralists or possibly people from design school, nothing looking like the walls inside the King's Court. I don't want one Pumbaa out of proportion. And that would be a suggestion, so question.
Christian, you have another minute to add anything if you want.
Yeah, I think you pretty much covered everything. I think it's really important, and I think we could definitely get a lot of support by the administration. One of the largest initiatives, or if you guys seen the new admissions website, and if you've seen the video, it's very focused on Penn being the social Ivy, and just very promoting Penn as this place where we're very social, we're really engaged with other students in our student organizations. And I think this would be a perfect representation to actually display this on our campus. You know, in Philadelphia we have over 3,000 murals and not one of them is on Penn's campus. And so I think that since we're such a big part of Philadelphia, this would be a perfect place to show that we are social and that we are here to make a difference in Philadelphia. And I think that it's more of a realistic depiction rather than just cartoonish. And so maybe we could have some type of projection of actual students. I think that would be nicer. And it just make it look pretty. 91 Commons is a hub for social life. It's a perfect place to do it. It definitely needs a little bit more of an aesthetic feel to it. And now with the renovations, I think that would be a perfect time to add to that part of campus.
Okay, so right now I have Abe, Joyce, Nikolai, and Nolan on the speakers list. Abe, we'll start with you.
I think this is a great idea. One thing to note is please make sure you coordinate with Julio and the diversity working group. Thanks, Julio, for paying attention here. Wonderful. So I know they're planning a mural for around that area. I'm not sure if it's exactly the same area, but make sure to coordinate because there are a number of student groups involved in that effort already to make sure that they don't conflict in the same space.
Joyce?
I absolutely love this idea. I know that, I think you guys should talk to the Netter Center because they actually have an ADCS course, which is like academically based community service course, where you can, it's like, it has to do with murals as well. It's like working with the community to paint murals. And I know that a couple years ago, more than a couple years ago, in the 90s or so, Penn students actually took a course where they designed a mural for University City High School. And the mural there, it's reminiscent of Magic Gardens. It's like a gorgeous mural. So I would really get in contact with someone at the Netter Center because I think it's a great way to marry student life and also civic and Philadelphia engagement.
Okay. Nikolai?
Yeah, I think this is a great project. My question would mostly go towards like where the funding come from. Have you guys already kind of discussed like who the stakeholders would be, and if there were muralists, like whether there'd be like former Penn students or like current Penn students, or would the design be like voted on by the body or by the student general population?
Can I comment on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so as Josh mentioned, we did want to make sure it's professional because it is part of our campus. We don't want it just to be kind of a very silly addition, and so we just want to make sure it's perfect. However, since we do have the design tool, we wanted to integrate, actual Penn students and have the mural done by Penn students because it adds to the value of the mural. We haven't really gotten into that specific logistics in terms of how we would vote on it. I think our first move is to get it approved first by the administration. We wanted to see what you guys thought about it. We did mention it during the steering meeting to Doug Berger, actually Jake Schuster did, and he was actually pretty supportive about it, and he seemed like it would be a really good idea. I think he was supporting it being on the wall where, I guess you can't really see in the picture, but there's a wall parallel to Locust Walk, as Josh mentioned. That's where he was imagining, but I think you can also pitch this wall because this is what's it's definitely way more visible from Locust Walk on the other side of the bridge.
Sorry, what were the funding sources?
Oh, wait, we'll come back to that. Nolan?
Yeah, I definitely like the idea. And as far as choosing who to actually paint it, first one I was just echoing, I was gonna say what Joyce said. I think if you can use students for the mural, that's great, and I think definitely there's a course that does that. I think that would, in some sense, be a little bit different from design schools. I don't know how you want to work out which students you actually do that through. But the other one would be if you want to partner alongside Mural Arts. If you're looking for the uniformity with the rest of Philadelphia, that would be a cool name to have alongside your project because it's really like that way you're really doing the same thing as a lot of other people in Philadelphia.
Patricia?
Yeah, a lot of what I wanted to say has been already said, but just something I want to throw out there is like hackathon and stuff like that. They get a lot of students to come out, and I think it'd be actually pretty cool if you guys had like a design competition or something like that. Just an idea, because they always say that people support what they help to create, and if more Penn students are involved in the process of creating this mural, they'll love it a lot more. So I think it'd be cool if you involved everybody.
Well, real quickly, adding on to that, the process for many murals that's created, I know the Mural Arts Project uses this process as many others, is it's designed on paper by people who have design capability, but when they put it up on the wall, it's essentially a paint by numbers process. So as long as you have the potential and the capability to actually prove color on a piece of paper and stay in the lines, I think that anybody, regardless if they're in the ADCS course or just a person off the street, has the capability of being able to contribute to the mural. And so I'd encourage looking at the entire undergraduate body, not just one course or one group. For that.
Hey, Delaney?
Nikolai actually asked the same question I was going to ask.
Okay, Nikolai? You have the next question.
Oh, sorry, I just, if Christian could kind of elaborate on what the potential funding sources so far have been envisioned.
Yeah, again, we haven't, that's what I was referring to in logistics, we haven't really gotten that far. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, that's my response to that.
Julio?
Yeah, I just wanted to let everybody know that the diversity working group of steering is also looking into like doing something with this space. We're looking at the stairs, so we're looking at doing a mural with all the like a bunch of different student groups on campus and like painting that, and we're in talks with administrators.
Yeah, just to quickly comment on that. With this, I think that's a great idea. That's a great thing to have as a project. With the stairs, I feel like that space in particular is only clearly visible when you're down at the courtyard, I guess that courtyard in 1920 Commons. So I feel like that isn't so much of a concern to have professional muralists get involved with that. So I think
this
that's
would be
good.
mostly students, but I'm just.
Of course. I just want to say that there's a difference, and so I mean we could talk about this after. And
Yeah, I think it's like this is a great space that we could definitely underutilized and we should get in there and renovate.
Sounds cool. I like it.
Alright, any more comments on this? Seeing none, we'll end discussion
Oh,
on
wait,
that.
one more, sorry. Also, did you know that, I know there's one huge wall, we talked about this at steering, but they have bamboo that's gonna be, did you bring that up?
That's the
Yeah, that's the wall. Right, so
I
that's,
just wanna make sure you.
yeah, just to clarify, okay, if you guys, this picture doesn't show it, but if you're to, yeah, it's over here, but it's running like like parallel to Locust Walk. It's a small wall where those trash cans are visible on the backside, and so what the dining facilities already looked into was to make sure that those trash cans aren't actually visible because it is a really crappy view. So those bamboos are actually in the future supposed to grow to a height to where you won't be able to see anything. You won't be able to see the parking lot, where all the cars are. You won't be able to see the dumpsters and like all the food being shipped into common. So it'll be more of a aesthetic space in general.
Okay. We move on then to our next discussion paper, which is Gabe, the Penn Mobile app. You have 3 minutes to introduce your discussion paper.
Oh, shit. Okay, we talked about this last week, and essentially it's a mobile app for the university. Those are some of the schools that already have it. There are many, many others that already have it. From what I gauge, I just came from Yale a few hours ago. I actually had the chance to talk to some kids about how a mobile app affects their ability to understand what's going on campus on a daily basis. They said that they couldn't function without it. So, and obviously that's a hyperbolic statement, but you know, it's I think it's a pressing need at the school. If you read the 4 paragraphs that I wrote there, I meant every single word. I've done a good amount of research on this. I live amongst freshmen who've pretty much complained to me that this is something that they'd like to see, and that the school has so many different websites and so many different sources of information that it's difficult to digest at some points. And so if you have a central source, as the smartphone market moves forward, and more people have these kind of phones, especially young people going into college, this is a perfect opportunity to not only centralize that source and really be impactful as a student body and do something that's really, really cool, but also give Penn Apps Labs a project that I think is in keeping with their tradition. It's a very young tradition, but tradition nonetheless. So actually, I don't need the rest of the time, but if you guys can read, all right. If you guys can go through. So this is what the Harvard app looks like. This is my general idea of what it would look like. This is the map. You know, I'll just keep going straight forward. My idea is for the social media kind of thing. We wouldn't have students actually post on this. We'd have perhaps someone. Could be anyone who works for Penn on this side, maybe the communication person, person who updates the websites, could put up some really cool Facebook, Twitter, YouTube events, videos, feeds that they'd like to see. We do it anyways if you check Facebook, and we have a YouTube channel. This is another thing where you can actually see what events are happening, where they're happening, how many people are attending, what time they're actually doing it at, and if your registration is confirmed. It's a very high-tech resource. I think it really allows for a lot of cohesion when it comes to understanding where things are and happening. This is the Princeton one. Discusses the different retail options on campus. At Yale, they have the dining halls, what their hours are, when they're open, when they're not open. Next one, please. 15 seconds. And then you can also check washing machines, and this is Stanford's, in which you can actually look at different courses you can take. That is all. Any questions? I have questions.
So I would start with Danielle. You're the first.
Oh, mine is a comment. Should I wait?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Okay.
It's all right, it's fine.
I just want to say, like, this would be fantastic to have, and I would love it. My concern, doing it through the UA, I think you've done so much research and it's really impressive, and I can't believe you've done all of this. Doing it through the UA is going to be difficult, especially, like, I talked to Stu last week after they left the room. I don't know if anybody knows, I left the room to talk to them. Because Penn Apps Labs, obviously, she couldn't even handle a project like OpenEd. And if we're gonna do this, and if Penn is gonna do this, and as you put it out, there are a lot of aspects of this that, wouldn't be directly controlled by students, would be directly controlled by some sort of communications office or, various people in charge of, athletics and events on campus. We want it done right and to have it done as well as possible. And I don't, as great as Penn Apps Labs is, the number of projects I think people in here have for Penn Apps Labs, the small little form projects that Penn Apps Labs is really good at doing, like Penn Book Bazaar where it's the two-sided form, things like that, are better for Penn Apps Labs because then we can use them to put more small projects up. I think you should go ahead and bring this. We should urge like the administration to go forward with this. I think it should be done by a higher power, and I think it should be done by, I think it should be, constructed by not students.
Okay.
We should look into the president, BPUL trustees to hire someone to do this. 'Cause
Now-
this would be amazing.
I appreciate the sentiment, and I agree entirely. I will yield my time to Matt Rosenberg, who's the technical guy.
That's the point of an Apps Lab doing due diligence. If they say no, then no. It's not for us to tell them that they are able to do it.
Joyce?
Okay, in terms of the statement, I think this is a great idea. I remember coming to Penn and looking for an app, and all I saw was a mobile website, and I was like, oh, this kind of sucks. Huh?
So
sorry, I'm entitled to my opinion. I didn't want to. However, that being said, I think there's some interest going on already because, for example, I was in Rodin this morning and I saw one of those barcode scanning thingies. That's like, oh, do you want a map of Penn? If so, scan it. So I think there are students out there who want this. I think it would be in your best interest to look for these types of students because you don't want redundancy in an app. Also, if I have a question, do I have to wait?
Yesenia, you were next on the list.
Yeah, just personally from a freshman perspective, I think it's such a great idea. I feel like he's super resourceful, I guess, for us that we have all this different, I think we have a list of things up there that we could incorporate in it or that would be in the app. But also, I guess my question or my concern, like you were saying, just the way it's carried about, that I wouldn't necessarily want students so much to run it, but have someone more that has more credibility as far as has legit information. Exactly, to be able to carry it across. But I think it's a great idea.
Joyce, you had a question?
Yeah. So I think this is awesome, but at the same time, though, would there be an alternative for students who don't have cell phones or smartphones?
Absolutely. So that's a great question, and I wanted to respond to something that you said earlier. We have a mobile website that is also on the discussion paper. Mobile website is accessible to all people, regardless of whatever device you have. That is, of course, if it has internet access. The smartphones, obviously not every single person's going to have a smartphone. I have a lot of friends who don't have smartphones. In that case, they may not have access, if they don't have access to the internet, they may not have access to apps. Let's say if you don't have access to apps, you have access to the internet. You can still check the mobile website. If you have access to applications, you can obviously download the app. I know that Harvard, Yale, Princeton, and UChicago, as well as Michigan and Duke, have mobile websites and mobile apps. What the function of a mobile website is, not the only function, but what it essentially does is provides a really great harbor for a great volume of information. Apps are more for links to direct things that are really, really useful. You can store a lot of information on an app. You can have a lot of really cool things that are a part of it, like a shuttle tracker or a dining hall update or times, et cetera, things that are fixed. To answer Joyce's question pretty much is we should have both the app or the apps and the mobile website. That way we can reach everyone. If you don't have access, then you won't have. Generally we want internet access. So if you don't have internet access, you can't access anything that's mobile.
Okay. Varun, did you have a question? Okay.
Yeah, Gabe, I wanted to know if you actually had any idea of where we could go to, maybe the university could go to hire somebody to do this.
Sure. We can actually go ahead and hire, we can partner with BlackBerry and partner with an organization like Google or Apple, and they'll actually develop the app for us. They've done it before. That is what Yale does. That is what Harvard does. That is what Princeton did. But there are other examples, such as Duke and such as the University of Michigan, where the creations actually came from students and is still facilitated by students. All the updates come from students. It depends, as Danielle made a good point, whether or not if Penn Apps Labs can handle it. That I have not. I have a meeting with Kyle Hargrave on Tuesday. We'll be discussing that, whether or not it's feasible, and then I'll have much more information.
Follow-up question?
No. Julio, you have the next question?
Yeah, I just wanted to know the extent of Lisa Shu's involvement in this project. I see how you're listed there.
I sent out.
paid for these services?
So I sent out an email to everyone on the UA body, AMs, if you're here. I did not send out an email to you, I don't know if you're on the list, but I sent out an email for anyone who would like to make a suggestion as to what kind of feature they'd like to see. Lisa Shu made the wonderful feature or suggestion that we should feature the undergraduate assembly. The access to UA. Of course, all this is very pending, so, but I don't know. You guys really like it?
Okay, next question, Chaka.
Gabe, I really like the idea, and I know you said you did a lot of market surveys in terms of the other schools, and I know Danielle brought this up in terms of who would be the one updating and in charge of the updating apps, and based on what you saw at other schools, what would you say is a better source of update? Like you said, some are updated by students, some are updated by like the school, so what do you think is more efficient, and how do we set up the?
I'll be very honest with you. I think that the best kind of updates are from private firms. Only because that is their job, that is what they function to do. Let's give it to them. The only issue with that, and I know Jake Schuster's not here, he would always have something to say about this, is funding, money. Will the university fund this? I think it's certainly worthwhile and in their best interest to do so. But of course, that's not my power. The only thing I can say is that I urge them to do so. But you know, I think it's so important that if the university doesn't give us funding, maybe we should really look into doing it ourselves. I think with that said, partnering with an Android, with a Google, with an Apple or a BlackBerry would be better, and paying them to provide the service. But again, that's an extra cost, and I don't know. I don't work for the. I'm not in the budget committee, but I'm not sure what the current status. From what I've heard, it's very constricted. So we would have to appeal to the higher powers. I mean, the university, I'm sure, could find some money to actually make room for this, and we're just probably about to take GoPen, Groups Online at Penn, off the air. We haven't done that yet, but we're thinking about doing that in the next couple. That'll save us $10,000. It wouldn't be enough to create the app on all markets, but it would certainly be a coin market, so to speak.
Guys, just FYI, like, there's a lot of questions on the list, and those will go before comments, so I haven't called on you just because people keep having questions, so please just bear with me. It looks like there's 3 to 4 questions right now, and then 7 people who will be able to comment after that. So Danielle, you have the next
I
question.
withdraw my question, he answered it already.
Okay, Arun, you had your next question?
What was it? No, that's okay, I withdraw.
Arjun?
What's the timetable for this? Let's say like today you hire over the various things. So like if Google said they want to do it, how long would it take for the app to actually?
10:30 Sunday, October 7th. If we did it right now, I mean, I don't know Penn Apps Labs' schedule. I haven't talked to Kyle Hargrave, so I don't want to speak off the cuff of that. But this wouldn't take any more than 2 months to really get on. I mean, if we got money, let's say we got enough money to pay for, let's just say Google and or Yeah, Google and Apple to create an app for us that would be functional on the Android and on the App Store, so the Apple market, I guess. You would pretty much cover most of the, sorry Anthony, I know you have a BlackBerry. You would cover most of the field in terms of smartphones. But you could also reach out to BlackBerry. I love you too. But it wouldn't take any more than a month or two. They do it rather quickly, and it's not a very difficult thing to create. Just a matter of whether we want to go private or want to go. But if we do the Penn Apps Labs one, it may take a year because we don't know what the schedule is. I don't know what schedule.
So assuming that Penn Apps Labs can't do this and we do have to go to an outside private company like Google, how much did Google charge those universities in the past?
I have researched, I believe when Harvard did it, Harvard has a very elaborate system. They have a lot of different apps. If you go to the App Store, they have like 35, 45 different apps for the Harvard Law School, Med School, et cetera, et cetera. They've kind of been big leaders in that. But it's an ongoing cost. It's not just a one-time thing. So you pay, let's say, $10,000 to $15,000 to create it, and then depending on the elaborate aspects of the actual app. And then if you want to have more updates, it wouldn't cost $10,000 to $15,000, of course, but updates to keep up with the phone and stuff like that, that would cost continuously, probably in the $5,000 to $10,000 range a year to keep it updated. But I will say one little caveat to that is the fact that you can actually sell advertising on these things, like they do on the DP website. That's a source of fundraising. I kind of left that out of here because I didn't want to make it about that. But you can sell advertising and it ends up paying for itself. So that, for me, makes a lot of sense.
Next question goes to Andrew.
Do you know who made the Wharton app?
No.
That's a good question. I don't know.
What's all the Wharton's name? Lawrence, you're the next question.
So is it possible to get an Apple to create the app and have us update it, whether it's Penn Apps Labs or whoever someone is in administration?
That is a legal question that I don't know the answer to. That would be in the contract. Before you write that, I would believe not, because I believe Apple would have the rights to that. Of course, you can sell it for free, as the other schools do. But yeah, I think it would be in the contract. You'd have to stipulate. That would require lawyers, which I unfortunately not yet. I don't have a law degree.
Okay, we will get on to comments because the question does seem to have expired for the time being. So Nikolai, first comment.
Okay, so I just want to comment on that. So when you actually make an app, you don't hire Google or Apple to make it for you. What you do is you get an app builder person, somebody you contract to build it for you, and then they don't keep it. They you pay for their hours and they give you that app. If you have a private company make it for you, they might ask royalties. That's if they already have the the application, a generic application that you can use Harvard or Yale, Princeton. They use some kind of a source code that some company owns. Then simply that company is simply renting it out to those schools. I think that's my old school views, I believe. And basically, they do give you the tools so that you can update it yourself. Because for instance, the main greatness about the app is that it kind of facilitates the integration of many other already created social networks to put on there. So for instance, you would have a little icon there for social, and it'd go to the Twitter site that Penn already has, because Penn already has multiple Twitter accounts. One is just Penn, one is Penn Law, whatever. That's pretty much what it does. It just helps integrate a lot of these things into one easily accessible place. You wouldn't have to make a totally new website for the campus map or whatever. You just simply link it there and then open up in the application, so it'd be kind of easier for you. It's really designed for people that have iPhones or Android systems. If we did have, for instance, student coders make it, you'd have to take into account that the Android platform and the Apple platform are very different, so you'd have to code it twice. And that's why when you have a corporate system that can do it for you, I think in the long run it's much better.
Yeah, I just wanted to sort of latch on to that. I misspoke. I was speaking in generalizations there. So you have to sign on get on an app builder. They're app building companies. I'm not sure which one Harvard uses. But yes, they may ask for royalties. That is what I sort of meant in terms of Apple or whoever owns the market. Yeah, that's right.
Anthony? I was just gonna say that I'm not sure if you've done this, but reach out to these other schools and these departments. It's really like shitty how they've done this. This is responsible with Danielle, because we don't know exactly. So I just would think if you were to reach out like to Harvard and Yale and maybe these local schools to Princeton, how they did it to those departments, I think it would be great.
Sure. Dan?
We can also, as an option, I don't want to speak, but another option is to in-house it, but not for students, so we could go to information systems computing and have them build it or ask them to.
Arjun?
Good job.
Okay. Eric?
Are we in the comment section or the question?
Comment.
Okay, I think it's a really great idea. Like, I feel like this has a lot of real benefits for Penn students. If Penn Apps Labs believes it can be done, I think that this definitely should be the project they should be working on. And so I think like this is something that will have a real effect for many years to come. And so good job, Gabe, for pushing this so hard, and I hope you guys all support it.
Ernest. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. I'm curious to know, have you talked to people in the University Communications Department, notably Matt Griffin, who does all the communication things regarding Twitter accounts and things like that. He's solely responsible for, I think, trying to create some type of a mobile app, and he's been in the process with the Communications Department doing that. So I didn't know if we want to overlap maybe plans as far they are trying to conceive, because the Daily Pennsylvanians also created an app, and before they did that, they kind of worked with University Communications on trying to put things on there like dates for events, food events, things like that. So I guess one suggestion I would give to you is try to contact University Communications, because they're probably already working on something like this similar, and I wouldn't want to overlap with information data.
Sure. That goes to Joyce's point, that there shouldn't be overlap, and that's a good point at that. Of course, this project is in its nascent phases, so before we make a decision on whether or not we were going to do this, I wanted to get a discussion from you guys. Thanks, Ernest, for that. Matt Griffin, right? Yeah. And so I'll be reaching out to different leaders in different communities. Kara Hargrave is probably the first one, because he'd be the tech guy, which without this is not possible. And then certainly reach out to other groups who are maybe even thinking about doing this, but we want to make it happen, and we want to incorporate everyone who has this idea. I think if we work together on it, we can make a better app.
Okay, Tiffany?
Yeah, Ernest said one of the points I was gonna make was about the GP has their own app. I feel like after you were saying your whole presentation, I was just thinking about all these different collaborations you could do. But one point is that I do agree with everyone else in that everyone else who said that maybe Penn Apps Labs isn't the right place to do this project, just because I feel like this is such a bigger scale, and you want this to be professional, you want this to be, you want this to look good and not, kind of crash. I'm not saying that Penn Apps Labs doesn't do good job, it doesn't do a good job, but I'm saying that this is definitely so much more it's on a bigger scale.
Yeah.
And so basically, also regarding funding, this is definitely not gonna obviously come out of UA funding,
Right.
I don't see how that could ever connect, but definitely the funding I would where I could see get your funding from is probably the university, and I really believe that this should be a university sponsored project, because this is for the greater good of all students in this university. It's not just one group of people. I feel that the university, you should really bring it up with maybe even this week we're meeting with Amy, or we're also going to meet with the provost soon. And so I feel like this is a really good issue to bring up to higher ups, because this is definitely more of a university level kind of project. And and I also want to suggest if you are still thinking about having it more being student run, etc. I know that there is an iPhone app class on campus. Maybe, I don't know, that's just a suggestion. And what was I also going to say something else? But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Alright, thank you.
Aiden?
Okay, so as we've been talking, I've done a little bit of looking into some of these things on the computer, trying to see what we can do. I'd like to commend Gabe for coming up with something as ambitious and as actually, quite frankly, well thought through as this is. And as a freshman, I would love to see this enacted. Unfortunately, in the current state of presentation, it looks like what I've done, the computer seems to argue otherwise. For example, I went on Duke University's website for the Office of Information Technology, which is what controls their Duke Mobile. And that is actually funded through Nucor Steel, which is a Fortune 500 company located in Charlotte. Also, Stanford's Student Apps does not control Stanford's app. And thirdly, I've actually pulled up a slide from 2008 in which the MIT people who were actually presenting talked about the physical constraints of what their mobile context was. They say that the data is still relatively slow and very expensive, so there's a high maintenance cost associated with this. The other thing as well is that this was presented back in 2008, and according to a recent article, according to an article that came out, the actual mobile app did not come out until December 9, 2010. So we're looking at a 2-year timetable based on past precedent. So I would encourage you to definitely look at this as something that is more viable towards outside funding. However, to answer another question, somebody brought up earlier that Wharton had an app. That was developed by something called Wharton Computing, which is a collaboration of 125-person staff between Wharton West and here. These are individuals who do not require royalties. So these are individuals, there is infrastructure here at Penn in which you can field it out to somebody that probably has a higher capacity to produce without having to pay for a corporate royalty. It's a possible suggestion.
I'll just say, not every single app that I mentioned, not every single organization that I mentioned or school runs the app the same way. Every single school has its own particular function, and they're all autonomous, and some are run by maybe Fortune 500 companies, and some are run by students. But I will say to your second point about Wharton Connect, if I can, Lisa, could you just talk to them about Wharton Connect? I know you didn't have a very good experience with that.
Oh, I didn't say I didn't have a good experience. It's not really useful for students. It's not like functional, like it's not for us to book GSRs, like there's a Wharton Spike mobile app for that. It's more of like, I don't know if you guys know like the connections part of Spike, which is just like networking with alumni, and it's like news. It has a stream of like Wharton related news. So it's, I mean, it's the interface is really professional and nice. So if you want to like get the design from that company, that'd be great. But it's not for students to go to class or anything.
Yeah, I think that before we like speak to whether Penn Apps Labs can do this or not, we need to ask Penn Apps Labs, like if someone goes out there. Like I believe strongly in what students can accomplish. I've always been big on like the kids doing it, because we do have computer scientists here. Like, I mean, they're legitimate. They're going to be engineers at the end of their 4 years. I know that just like putting this out there, Andrew's a great designer himself, like, and that's just one guy. So I think that we should ask them before we can assume that we need to pay out thousands of dollars. And another thing is that I think it'd be really cool if we're not Harvard, we're not Yale, and each school is like kind of different in what their students need and stuff. So I think it'd be cool if we had, maybe this could be a Penn Apps Labs project like right away, to like students to actually give feedback on the features that they want. I think that would be really interesting because like some of the features up there, like people, like I don't know what that means in this Harvard app.
Directory.
Oh, it's a directory. Okay, maybe Penn students want it, maybe Penn students don't. So I think it would be really cool. Like, do they need a map? Do they need a schedule? Like, for students to actually give their feedback and have more at stake in this actual app.
So I will actually be meeting with Michael. Is it Michael Hargrave? Kyle Hargrave, right? I'll be meeting with Kyle Hargrave on Tuesday. So that would be my Asking Penn Apps Labs. He's our I guess. Their chairperson on our for that. So I'll be asking him and going over some logistics. And in terms of asking students, of course, I just wanted to see feedback from you guys, because you guys are by and large the arms representatives of the students, see what you guys wanted to do. If we ever think about doing this project, which I really hope you consider doing, we should expand it out. Maybe send out a mass email, something like that, or a survey with Qualtrics. This is a really good company that does surveys. But either way, sure.
Danielle?
I just wanted to say also, I just remember last year, and as many people know, the college at least, and a lot of other schools on campus are looking towards Google for their interface, you know, like we're all using Gmail, et cetera. And like I attended a student financial services meeting last year where they wanted student input on what they wanted their web interface to look like because the president's office is mandating that all the different departments' interfaces look exactly the same. Like they wanted to know like what kind of tools we wanted for the sidebar, where you know that stuff like that, and I gave my input. If the president's office right now is doing this and making these changes, I think right now is the time when they're most open to new technological, you know, connectivity, and then, you know, we can also work with Google, which is what they seem to like here, stuff like that. Just bear in mind, like, I don't want this program, like, if we're gonna do it, let's do it now, because this is like the time when we're looking into doing computer stuff and changing things and changing everything.
Dan?
Just, I think I mentioned it during my report, but as long as we're talking about it, so this on the side screen is Penn Apps Lab's new project idea generation and feedback system, for example. This is Penn Study Spaces, it's been on the site, so if you ever went to Penn Study Spaces and had a problem, you could go here, and so for example, people said you should make a smartphone app for this, you should make GSRs available in Penn Study Spaces. This is where they get feedback, and then there's upvote, downvotes, and comments. This is how they're gonna generate new ideas. I think, so one, this should go on this website, and so it can be part of the idea solicitation process, and Penn Apps Labs can determine if it's feasible. And then if this project is adopted, we can also use this to solicit what Penn students do. But just so you guys actually now know where it is and have seen it, so that you can tell your constituents to also propose project ideas. Penn Apps Lab, you know, I'll send this out. I'll send it out. But this is where they're gonna solicit projects from, and I think you all should know.
Patricia, a question?
I feel like a lot of the support coming out of here is positive, and basically what people are doing is asking for more information. So, can I like move previous question or like end debate?
Well, we won't move.
We won't move previous question.
So this isn't a resolution, so no, you cannot. Motion to refer to committee. If the motion to limit debate or end debate, then yeah.
Motion that.
So there's two, all in favor, please raise your placards. All opposed? Abstentions? That passes. We will end debate on that.
Thanks for your feedback, guys.
And last, we will move on to our last resolution tonight. The online civil by resolution. Lisa, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, so actually, we passed the same exact resolution last semester, and I only have to do this because of some weird rule. So for the new members, if you want to ask me any questions, I'll give you answers to them later. But basically, Academic Affairs Committee thinks it's really important to have as many syllabi posted online as possible when students are looking for courses. Obviously, that's a good thing. And a good way, a sustainable way we've come up with to do this is to email all the professors who are teaching courses in the following semester and just ask them nicely, as you can see in the letter, to post their syllabi before course selection starts. So the letter serves a few purposes. You can, if you've read through it, then you know. Basically, we give them instructions on how to post their syllabi online. We have a brief paragraph explaining why it's beneficial. And then it gives them a contact email, syllabi@pennua.org, which I administer, for them to ask any follow-up questions. Like some of them are really technologically challenged, so they're like, what do I do? And I explain it. So the letter was really successful last year, I think. It like doubled, I think it was like 350 to 800, I don't know the numbers, but it was like more than doubled the number of syllabi posted online. So we want to repeat it for semesters to come. And we haven't come up with a way to like institutionalize it, so every time we do, we have to pass this resolution. Oh, and I have a list of all the emails. I got it from Rob Nelson, and Andy's gonna tell me how to do mail merge to send the emails out.
Okay, so we'll go into question and answer. Future first question.
Where do these syllabi get posted?
Okay, so do you know Penn in Touch?
Yeah, they just get posted like with the course. Yes. Okay, are there actually any online right now?
Yes. We're in every word in syllabi for every word in class is on it because we have this syllabi repository. It's not the case for like this is mostly targeted to those small classes like seminars and stuff that's like ad hoc that people don't necessarily have a syllabi for already. So it's those like the college classes that are mainly targeted.
there is an amendment on the floor to remove enactment clause 4, which states that, Joyce, Dan, can you change that to, does it show enactment
It's right
clause
there.
4? Oh, okay. Strongly urges faculty who don't strictly post their syllabi online to do so. This would strike that. Is that a friendly amendment?
Wait, can I hear why?
Dan, briefly your rationale.
This resolution is great, it's something we need to do. The reason I don't like that clause in the resolution is threefold. First is that it doesn't actually go to faculty, the letter does, and that's where we strongly encourage them, but this goes to administrators. Second is because it's slightly redundant. We've already commended the ones who have done it, and so the implication is that if you haven't, we don't like you. We would like you to do that. But third is, my general philosophy with resolutions is we want to do things that are very achievable and positive, and so to tell faculty, this feels very call out to me, and since they don't see it anyways, I don't know that there's a value, because it kind of says, professors who haven't done it in the past, like, it's not good that you're not doing this.
I think, well, basically I didn't even amend what I had last year, but when I ended the letter from Faye, like hers was, it was like after the fact, so it was like kind of punishing, and I wanted to just include that in there, but I don't think it's relevant anymore. Cause it's just preemptive at this point, it's not like we're only sending it to faculty who haven't posted.
Okay, so is that friendly or no?
Yes.
So it will be struck.
That's fine.
Okay. That amendment is considered adopted then, unless 2 other members object to such adoption. Objections. There are no questions right now, so we will move to pro-con debate. Lisa, you have the first pro.
I don't need it.
Okay. Danielle, are you?
I mean, I don't know, I'm pro.
Okay.
But I think honestly, this is a really great idea. I just remember personally looking myself over the summer, I was looking at go back to all my classes. And I did find most of them, not all of them, but most of them, which is great. The one thing, this is sort of like irrelevant, but still, you know, according to syllabi, a lot of professors, like, in choosing to abide by this, like, posted, like, really old syllabi.
Yeah,
I was wondering if there was, this is sort of a question to you or like anyone, is anyone looking into like forcing them to update syllabi? Like not forcing, but you know what I mean?
What I like
Encouraging.
is like this is before, we sent this before the course selection actually happens, and if you think about it, it's actually like 4 months before they actually need the syllabi themselves, so actually there's a clause in the letter that says it's okay to upload the old syllabi, it's better now, and that most professors don't change it so materially over the years, so. Like, we see the priority as increasing the number of quality.
No, I agree. I was wondering.
Cool.
Abe, you had a question?
Yeah, sorry for not bringing this up earlier, I just thought of it now, but now that I'm thinking about it, last year when we sent them out afterwards, there were benefits to that as well. Do you think maybe?
We didn't send it out.
After it was up already, the first, do you think maybe it would be beneficial to authorize you to have the right to, in addition to sending this letter, send out a follow-up letter to faculty who don't have them up, just urging them to after it's up?
Yeah, the only reason so I can get from Rob Nelson the entire list, but he doesn't necessarily have the capabilities to do that. And I think one of the things that we were considering is like if I send it out and it takes him like a week or 2 to give me the list, in that week or 2, maybe like 20% of them already posted it, and then I'm like, sound like an asshole.
Okay, Varun?
I think it's necessary that we do this because I remember I was registering for courses over the summer, and I had registered for a particular history class, and I actually didn't know enough about what the course was going to cover. And they said that the syllabi would be up in August, so and this particular syllabus was not on there, and I don't think for any of my classes it really got on there until classes started. So not enough time to register for classes, and we don't really know what's going on. So I think that just continuing the pressure to put syllabi up is a good resolution.
I see one motion for previous question. Are there any more? Second. Okay. All in favor of previous question, please raise your hand. All opposed? Abstentions? Previous, we will move to voting. That passes. Please write on your placards. Online
syllabi for spring 2013. Yeah. So again, online syllabi for spring 2013 resolution. For labor, we passed this.
Yeah.
There you go.
Will, so is there, Will,
Yeah.
so is there no way to like make it so that we don't have to do the resolution, but it doesn't necessarily obligate future UAs to do it, it just permits them to? Like permits, not obligate, because I asked someone the other day, and they were just like, we can't obligate the future UAs, but can you give them the ability?
What's the question?
It's so dumb.
Lisa, I don't think
She wants to know the fine.
It's so dumb.
You said you think it does the option.
Right, like at least for next semester, can we do that? Wait. Will, can it be like effective too?
It's something you do now, where are we going?
God damn it.
Okay, all voting pro on this resolution, please raise your placards.
Lisa, are you voting pro on your resolution?
Yeah, you're sounding.
All opposed? All abstaining? That resolution passes 32 to 0 to 0. And with that, we're moving to communications.
Yay! Hell yeah.